I've come on here to talk about negative reviews on the podcast before. Not a bother. Like people, when you are a creative, when you are online and you're talking about stuff, not everyone's gonna like what you're gonna say, so it's fine. On iTunes, I got another negative review, so I usually read them to learn okay, some stuff is probably chaff, but other stuff is important. So I thought it would be interesting to respond to 3 things. And obviously, here's the whole thing. You can read it if you pause or go to iTunes, whatever. 1, someone in another review, so who knows, maybe they're the same person making new accounts. Who cares? Multiple people have mentioned, Melvin, you don't talk about enough Christian movies if you're a show that's a movie podcast hosted by Christians. Fair. But this is then utilized to sort of talk about my view on politics, my view on theology, stuff like that, which granted we talk about on the show. We just talk about that whenever it's relevant to an episode or how I responded to a film. But we've talked about a mix of either Christian marketed movies, a la Fireproof, Hangman's Curse. I've also talked about 2 Malick movies, A Hidden Life and The Tree of Life, actually. And then actually previously we had talked about Tarkovsky movies and other kind of in that realm of classic art house spiritualism. But the guest that I had on for the show at that point was arrested for abuse of a minor, so I had to remove those. Now, on the podcast, I routinely talk about how there is a frustrating correlation between the Christian celebrities and abuse that happens within them. So the irony isn't lost on me that here's this criticism about us talking about not enough Christian movies, and it's well, we had, and after 6 years of doing the show, it makes sense that maybe a guest or 2 would be problematic. So those episodes are gone. You'll never hear them. Another one of the criticisms is this idea that I'm performatively being a safe man. I am 30 years old now. There is no doubt that I have been an unsafe man, obviously. But it's important when you turn a new leaf to go full orient towards it. So that's why it's important to me that I have on women on the podcast, because I think that if I want to hear about their experiences, it's best to have them on instead of just talking to men about it. And secondly, it criticizes this idea that I spend time with women, or that it implied I go on dates with women. Just crazy. I have women friends and I spend a lot of time with them, and they're enjoyable and delightful and absolutely fun. But they criticize it because I'm married. What they're then criticizing, though, isn't me as a man. That criticism is of men. The criticism that a man could be performative and therefore lying. That is not a criticism of me. That is a criticism of men, because I'm safe with women. You can ask the women that I spend time with. They'll tell you. The last thing I thought was interesting in this negative review was that as I talk about women or talk about whatever, was that an old co-host of the show, Daniel, he was on for several years, and then now he's not on the show. And this review says, I wonder if it's because he's not friends with any men anymore. Daniel went into missions. Daniel left the podcast to go do missions work. And if you go on Patreon, we support him. 10% of everything that comes on Patreon goes straight to him. And he was on the show 2 years ago. He did an episode on The Crow. I'm just yapping, right? I get this negative review and I think okay, there's still some sensible things in it. Those are 3 things that just don't seem, I just think they're disingenuous. So that's what I thought.